You don't make people addicted by giving them what they want. You make them addicted by holding back what they crave. Craving isn't born from satisfaction, it's born from tension, from the silent denial of immediate pleasure. When you give too easily, you end the chase. You satisfy curiosity, you complete the cycle. But when you withhold, when you let the desire hang unresolved, you trigger a loop that spins inside their mind, a tension they can't shake off, a gravity they can't resist. The real power isn't in what you offer, it's in what you strategically refuse to give. You don't pull them in by overgiving, you pull them in by letting them lean forward, reaching for something they almost touched but never fully received. This is withhold and hook. The art of creating silent addiction, without force, without noise, without ever appearing to chase. In this video, you'll learn how to design conversations, connections, and emotional dynamics that make people crave more of you, without even knowing why. Part 1. Why withholding creates stronger craving than giving. Satisfaction ends desire. Incompletion amplifies it. When you give people everything they want, they stop wanting. They feel full, complete, finished, and finished things fade. But when you hold something back, when you leave the door half open, when you offer a glimpse but deny full entry, you trigger something deeper. You ignite craving, tension, and emotional hunger. That doesn't resolve. Here's the paradox. The more you give, the faster you lose gravity. The less you give, strategically, carefully, the tighter the bond becomes. Because human psychology isn't wired for satisfaction. It's wired for pursuit, for reaching, for leaning into what feels just out of grasp. When you satisfy someone's craving too quickly, you kill the emotional momentum. You close the loop, and closed loops are forgotten loops. But when you leave it unfinished, when you let the tension linger just beneath the surface, you stay alive inside them, not as a memory, but as an active force, a gravity that keeps pulling. You become the itch they can't scratch, the thought they can't silence, the emotional gap they keep trying to close, without even knowing why. This is the silent power of withholding, not withholding everything, not starving connection, but offering just enough to spark craving, and then stepping back, letting the tension ferment until it owns them. Master this dynamic, and you'll never need to chase attention again, because they'll be trapped in a craving loop you designed from the very beginning. Part 2. The psychology behind withhold and hook. Addiction isn't built on certainty, it's built on unpredictability. The mind doesn't crave what it fully understands. It craves what it almost grasps, but can never completely hold. This is variable reward theory. The brain becomes more obsessed when rewards are inconsistent, unpredictable, unstable. When you give fully and consistently, they enjoy it. Then they move on. But when you create tension, when you mix attention with withdrawal, connection with absence, validation with silence, you trap the emotional system in a loop. A loop that keeps asking, will they respond this time? Will they open up more? Will I finally get what I'm reaching for? Every unanswered craving tightens the bond. Every delayed gratification sharpens the focus, because the brain hates open loops. It hates unresolved emotion. It seeks closure. And when closure isn't given, craving mutates into obsession. This is the architecture behind withhold and hook. touch the emotional nerve, spark the desire, hold back just enough. Let the mind spiral inward. The longer the mind spirals, the deeper the emotional imprint you leave. You don't force attachment. You don't demand loyalty. You become the unresolved tension they can't untangle, the missing piece they can't replace, the silent gravity they can't escape. This isn't manipulation. It's emotional physics. And once you understand how craving loops work, you realize giving doesn't bond people. Craving does. Part 3. 5 techniques to withhold and hook effectively. Withholding isn't about shutting people out. It's about creating magnetic tension and managing it without losing connection. Here are 5 techniques to withhold and hook, strategically, powerfully, unforgettably. Technique 1. Selective attention. Don't give your focus away freely. Attention is currency. Scarcity raises its value. When you respond, be present. But when you withdraw fully. The unpredictability keeps them leaning forward, chasing the next hit of your attention. Technique 2. Emotional teasing. Spark an emotional connection. But pull back before it satisfies. Touch the surface of deeper feelings, interest, resonance, chemistry. Then shift slightly. Leave a hint, a spark, a suggestion, but never let it explode into full emotional intimacy too fast. You ignite the craving. Then you step back and let it burn. Technique 3. Half-delivered insights. Offer powerful observations, reflections, or validations, but not the full picture. Example, there's something about the way you move through the world. It's rare. Slight pause. No full explanation. Let them wonder. Let them crave to hear the rest. Curiosity sharpens craving more than compliments ever could. Technique 4. Strategic silence after impact. When you drop an emotional impact, don't rush to fill the space. Say something meaningful, then stop. Let the silence expand. Their mind will scramble to fill the gap. Their heart will lean in to seek more. You hold gravity by not rushing to soothe tension. Technique 5. Minimal validation drip. Validation should be rare, precious, earned, instead of constantly affirming or encouraging. Let them work for every signal. A small nod, a slight smile, a short acknowledgement. Sparse, selective, powerful. The less you validate, the more they seek your approval. And the more they seek it, the deeper the craving loop embeds itself. Master these 5 techniques, and you'll create emotional dynamics where your presence feels addictive. Not because you gave too much, but because you gave just enough to make them need more. You become the source they can't predict, can't control, and can't replace. Part 4. Common mistakes that kill the withhold effect. Withholding is a sharp weapon, but if used wrong, it dulls fast. Here are the critical mistakes that shatter the craving loop before it can fully form. Mistake 1. Overgiving after tension builds. You spark interest. You create tension. Then you flood them with attention, validation, approval, and instantly the craving collapses. Craving only survives when tension breathes. Overgiving suffocates the loop and kills the magnetism you fought to build. Mistake 2. Withdrawing too hard, too fast. if you pull back too sharply. You don't create craving. You trigger abandonment, cold silence. Without emotional foundation, doesn't create addiction. It creates emotional shutdown. Withholding only works when there's enough initial resonance for the mind to want more. No emotional seed, no emotional craving. Mistake 3, being predictable. If they can predict your pattern, the loop dies. Predictable withdrawal. Feels manipulative, mechanical, empty. Craving needs uncertainty, controlled unpredictability, a rhythm they can never quite catch. Be present sometimes, withhold sometimes. Never let them map you. Mistake 4, making it about punishment. Withholding isn't revenge, it's emotional architecture. If you pull back to punish, to manipulate openly, to teach a lesson, you poison the craving loop. Craving is born from attraction, not resentment. You create longing, not resistance. Mistake 5, leaking neediness. During withholding, if you pull back, but your energy still screams, "I hope they notice," you break the illusion. True withholding is clean, detached, grounded. You withhold because you choose to, not because you're hoping for a reaction. Craving flows towards stillness, not towards silent desperation. If you leak emotional need, you lose emotional gravity. Avoid these mistakes, and your withhold becomes pure magnetic power. Silent, relentless, undeniable. You don't push, you don't plead, you simply exist. And they orbit around the emotional gap you refused to fill. Part 5. Real examples, how to withhold and hook without losing connection. Theory builds the structure. Application builds the addiction. Let's break down real-world moves, where you withhold strategically and tighten the craving loop without losing emotional gravity. Example 1. The unfinished compliment. You notice something powerful about them. Instead of fully expressing it, you slice it halfway. You have a presence that's rare. Pause. Smile slightly. Change the subject. Impact. You ignite emotional warmth, but you leave the validation incomplete. They'll keep wondering, what exactly did they see in me? And that wondering deepens the craving. Example 2. The emotional lean-in, then withdrawal. In a moment of connection, you lean in emotionally. You listen, you resonate, you mirror their energy. Then, right as the connection thickens, you pull back. You become slightly more distant, calm, neutral, impact. The sudden shift creates a vacuum. Their emotional system reaches to fill it. They lean in harder. Not because you pushed, but because you withheld at the peak of resonance. Example 3. The controlled availability. Instead of being constantly reachable, you manage access carefully. You answer sometimes immediately. Other times, you let hours or days pass, not out of pettiness, out of design. Impact. Uncertainty builds emotional tension. The less they can predict your rhythm, the more they crave your presence. Availability loses value. Scarcity multiplies it. Example 4. The delayed response after vulnerability. When someone shares something vulnerable, the instinct is to instantly comfort. You don't. You pause. You let their words breathe. You reflect lightly, without rushing to reassure. Sounds like you carry that deeply. Then you stay silent, grounded, still. Impact. You validate the depth dash, but you withhold emotional rescue. This forces them to stay emotionally open, leaning toward you, craving completion that never fully arrives. Each of these moves tightens the craving loop, without noise, without pressure, without losing emotional grounding. You don't manipulate. You design gravity. You manage tension. You create addiction, not through chaos, but through silent, strategic withholding. Final CTA. You don't create addiction. By overwhelming people with attention, you create addiction. By mastering tension, by giving just enough to ignite craving, and withholding just enough to keep the craving alive. Withhold and hook isn't about being cold, it's about being deliberate. It's about understanding that emotional scarcity is more powerful than emotional abundance. When you manage access carefully, when you let tension breathe, when you refuse to complete the emotional circuit, you become unforgettable, not because you flooded them with validation, but because you made them work. For every glimpse, every signal, every moment of connection. And the more they work, the more they crave, because real desire is born from controlled distance, not uncontrolled giving. Once you master withholding strategically, you stop chasing attention. You become the gravitational center. Others orbit without knowing why. This is emotional architecture, silent, strategic, unbreakable, smooth transition. In the next video, we take it even further, because once you can create craving, the next level is to make every signal you give feel even rarer, even more valuable. It's called vanishing validation. Make them work for every signal. Because the less you validate, the more powerful you become. And once they start chasing every word, every glance, every pause dash, you'll realize power isn't in being heard, it's in being sought.